The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
Episode 38, Silly Goose Gang Podcast. And joining us this evening or this afternoon, Mark Valenti of Blind Dog Gym. So, Mark, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for
I'm sitting here now, Mark, and I'm trying to figure out what is on your T-shirt. What is that?
This is put my cocktail down for a second. This is it says Nama Slay. So it's from
okay.
Smashing Greens. They're Mitch Aguilar's company. They do. He's a former Navy SEAL and UFC fighter, and I love his stuff. We have a mutual friend in common who turned me on to his stuff. So I've been buying all his gear.
I believe you have messaged Mitch about coming on here as well, Ali, didn't you?
I messaged been sent out into the interwebs to see if we can Mitch to jump on and have a chat with us. So we're
also a fan of his, so that's kind of cool how that works out. You're best known, Mark, for the Highland Games stuff, which obviously we have a great interest in.
I love it. Yeah.
So how does an Italian American become involved in the Highland Games?
It was kind of I had a very different introduction to it than most people. So I was a shot putter in high school. My first year throwing the shot and discus in high school, we had a guy down the street who was like the local bus mechanic. He worked on all the school buses, and he was an amateur Highland Games guy, and came down and saw me throwing the shot put, and I said, "Oh, you should try these Highland Games out." So I gave him a call once the season was done, said, "Hey, I want to try the Highland Games out." He said, "You have to be able to," and I was 15 years old. He said, "You have to be able to bench press 300 pounds, squat and deadlift 400 pounds before I'll coach you," which I don't think he could have done to save his life. But I waited 3 months and I called him back and I said, "I'm ready to start training." And he said, "Well, did you hit those numbers?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I got them. No problem at all." I wasn't even close to that, but he agreed. He agreed to coach me, and I did 4 or 5 years as an amateur, and once the writing was on the wall that I wasn't going to throw the shot and discus in college, I said, "Well, instead of throwing for a college, I'll just turn pro and try to make a little money for myself," and became a career for 17 years.
Wow!
So, yes, that's pretty cool little introduction into it. But it's I suppose each individual event within the Highland Games there are similar things within other kind of disciplines, but they're all kind of uniquely bundled together, which makes it quite a weird sort of discipline. It's quite a bizarre thing.
Yeah, it's super difficult for guys. If you're a high level shot putter, I think it was better for me that I wasn't a high level shot putter or discus thrower. I was just a high school kid. When a high level shot putter comes in and he's really, really good at the shot put, and then he has to figure out how to throw a sheaf or a caber, it can be a little bit of a mind fuck for him because they go from being the best guy in the field to the worst guy in the field because it's just an entirely different skill set.
Yeah. So what is the weight of a shot put compared to? Is it the same weight for because what it's called? Is it the Braemar stones? It's called. Is that the same thing?
We call it the Braemar stone.
Right. Okay.
The Scots call it the heavy stone. So
the heavy stone. Right. Okay.
Why we call it the Braemar stone, I don't know. But the heavy stone or the Braemar stone is usually 22 pounds or heavier. And open stone where you can actually spin or glide is 16 pounds, just like an Olympic shot.
Right. So then what? So that's the same as an Olympic shot put.
Right.
Right. Okay. So that's actually, I think it's one of those things as well as if I'm trying to think now what is like 16 pounds, or 22 pounds. I'm just trying to think in my head what that would be like in terms of weighting and try to think about throwing it because it's.
I think they were actually when stone putting became shot putting, I think it was because of the cannonball size of the cannonball. If I'm not mistaken, I could be totally full of shit, but I think it was because of the cannons. That's what they were throwing.
Yeah. I suppose the
It's now on
Highland
the
Games.
internet, so it must be true. It's now on the internet.
It's on the internet. Must be
There
true.
was from the cannonball. Still cannonball.
Everything on the internet is true. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I suppose the the Highland Games go back way back. So
Yeah.
yeah. Did you ever study like the history, or did you?
See, you hear history at all these games,
Yeah.
and you don't know how much of it is bullshit and how much of it is the real deal. You heard all these stories of how the caber came about. They were trying to traverse moats or get them up castle walls, and I'm thinking there's got to be a fucking better way to traverse a moat or get over a castle wall than throwing a stick and having the guy who throws a stick get murdered. So I don't. My guess is a bunch of guys went out and got hammered and said I can throw that stick better than you can, and that's probably how it happened.
Yeah, I know. Like from what I've heard and read, I don't believe anybody knows where the tossing the caber comes from. There's loads of wild ideas, but yeah, it's probably most likely some guys were pissed and went,
Right.
I bet I can throw that further than you, and just started throwing it. Because there's no reason, that you would ever throw a massive log and hold it this way.
That's the thing is, in all these games, we ended up getting wrecked afterwards. We throw all day and then go to the beer tent, and then all of a sudden you're throwing lawn chairs or whatever's available to you. So it's just guys being guys, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So what did did you do any like competitive powerlifting as well, Mark? Did you like
So
supplement that?
not really. I spent a lot of time with the power lifts training for the Highland Games. So I once I turned pro, I went down, and myself and Kerry Overfelt, we went down probably half a dozen times to Westside Barbell, because Westside Barbell happens to be 2 hours from my house.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time just picking Louis' brain and just figuring out how best to take his system and use it for throwers. It just made a lot of sense to me. So I trained like a power lifter actually, but I never got into the bench, squat, or deadlift. To be honest with you, I never thought I was that good at them. I was an athlete who liked to move and accelerate weights. I was never a guy who could, I had a 455 bench, which for me was great, but I never was one to get into a powerlifting meet or anything like that. Just wasn't my cup of tea.
So yeah, I mean, so I got, I think and maybe it's just me. I think most guys go through a stage of, when they're doing those compound lifts of getting numbers in their head and going, I want to deadlift 600 or whatever the number is, and then, I got fixated on, a 250 kilo deadlift, which will be five, six, something around about there. So I, because I deadlifted 240, and then you start chasing this 250 number, and you just think, but everything else is going to shit because I'm just concentrating, and it means nothing. It's not relevant to anything, unless you're actually doing competitive powerlifting. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant to what I was doing. So, I like watching, powerlift. It's really not relevant to it. I mean, unless you're powerlifting, it doesn't translate. It's not like, it's not one of those things because you do. I'll do some, triathlons and stuff like that. I do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It doesn't, at the top end, after you get past maybe like 200 kilos, you don't really have to be any stronger than that generally, for jiu-jitsu or anything. So, I think powerlifting is one of those things that I'm excited to do it later in life just for fun. But it gets. I think the numbers become. You never find that when you're lifting, you get fixated on rather than saying the game's coming up, but you end up getting numbers in your head like I really want to fucking press whatever it is, 300 pounds or something.
So that'll get into your brain, right? So and now that I'm older and more experienced, that wouldn't have played in. But when you're a 30-year-old guy and you the last time you hit a PR, you had a 700-pound deadlift. But man, this week when you only pulled 670. So am I gonna? You start playing mind games with yourself, and you start chasing these numbers. And as a kid, it's hard to overlook that stuff. I think nowadays, you're right. Like, I mean, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, and I know that I'm going to be stronger, even at the body weight I am now, than 99% of the guys I get on the mat with.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't matter to me. I go in, and if I do a max effort day, and if I pull 500, great. If I pull 560, great. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just whatever I did that day. I went balls out. Now.
I didn't realize that you were doing some BJJ, so I was trying to find a way to articulate it would make sense to somebody. So I didn't know you did it. So yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we all are. So yeah. So me and Ali are both blue belts now. Yeah, and they get to a point where if I can, play 200 kilos, whatever that is, 4, 20, 430 or something like that. If I could do that for triples, I never need to be any stronger.
No.
Than to go near 230
most of the guys
it's absolutely pointless.
Right, and most of the guys I roll with, it's hard enough to get them to lift weights at all, let alone really. They've already got stuff that they're doing. I'm a 4-stripe white belt, so hopefully I'll be getting that blue belt soon. And everyone's more technical than I am. I'm just most of what I do is 8th grade wrestling with some submissions in it. It's not super high tech. So I use what I have. I've got good grips, and I get heavy on people. So
yeah.
So I suppose you having those grips in the gi would be a nightmare.
Love
have like really awesome grips. Yeah. I hate it.
I don't like no gi. Forget about no gi. That's not me. I'm an old man. I need to slow things down and get a hold of people.
Yeah. I'm an old man as well, Mike. But I'm sorry, Mark. But I hate the gi because of the fact it slows you down. I like it being a little bit faster, a little bit more fluid than the people grab a hold and you just can't shake the grip. And
What's crazy is you get some of the older guys, guys who have done judo or something like that, and you get that old man strength that they just grab your collar and you're like, shit.
Yeah. I have 2 instructors. One guy is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and a brown belt in judo, and then my main instructor is a black belt in judo and a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So I get a lot of judo, and that suits me a lot better, being a bigger guy. And I like pinning. I like the smash and pass stuff, and it works really well for me. But man, he's 58 years old, and when he gets a hold of you, forget about it. He's got a grip from hell. There's not much you can do.
Well, our coach is the same. Our coach John is 53 now, and he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and exactly the same thing. He's got that crazy old man mentality, and he makes it horrible, and he gets a hold of your collars and straight. It's horrible. Yeah, awful. So so what was what made you buy the jiu-jitsu? Just like the look, or?
So a good buddy of mine ran a school just down the road from me, and we were talking. I had him on my podcast, and he just kind of talked to me, and I thought, man, this sounds like something I might want to do. And I'm into the old physical culture guys, and they were all slinging kettlebells and wrestling, so I thought it would be a nice thing to try out. Went out to my first class, and I had been a corrections officer for 19 years. So, I'd been in hundreds of altercations and thought I was a pretty tough guy. And I went in there that first night and just got the dog shit crap beat out of me for an hour and a half, and realized all of a sudden, I don't know how to fight. I was walking around thinking I knew how to fight. I had no idea. So that was the evening class. So 10 hours later, I was in the morning class learning how to fight. So it was a little scary for, 6 months where you're walking around knowing how vulnerable you are. And now it's a lot nicer, hopefully I'll get that blue belt soon. I used to have pictures of my family. Yeah.
Now you just want the blue belt.
I just want that blue belt. I've got a picture of it. I used to have a picture of my wife and kid on my phone, and now when I open up my screen, there's a picture of a blue belt there, just to remind me, what's really important in life is getting that blue belt.
What's a really nice feeling? And you get your blue belt, and you start to feel like you're starting to develop your own style and your own game. You have your own things that you go to and places to come back to and advance to, and then you get like a new guy comes in, like a new-ish white belt, and you can play with them, and that's such a nice feeling. Because you can sit there and play guard, and you're just going, oh, look at this, and I'll do this, and I could do and it's such a nice feeling. You go, oh, so good, and then you roll with a really good purple belt and go,
and you get humbled again.
You still get smashed. You still get smashed.
It's those peaks and valleys that I love about it.
We've
there's times where and I know Ali's had this, and I've said this as well, is there'll be certain weeks where you go, I am shit. I've just nothing works.
Yes. 100%.
And 100%. It's amazing. You just keep persevering. It happens to Ali. It happens to Ali more than anybody else, obviously. But
genuinely had that spell where I forgot how to jiu-jitsu. I genuinely forgot how to jiu-jitsu. I would be like you were saying, Mark. That feeling of just, I've forgotten how to defend. I've forgotten everything. I'm just getting hammered, smashed, and then suddenly a week later, as you say, the next class, sometimes even it's like it gets implanted back into your brain, and you can suddenly remember how to do things. But it's humbling. It is humbling the first time when you go onto the mat, or you go up a level, or the first time you roll with a good blue or a good purple, particularly as a white belt. It's a humbling experience. And me and Chris have said a few times, it's scary to think how many people think on a Friday and Saturday night they can fight having had zero training other than, I'm tough, I'm big, I can throw fists.
And like I said, I'd worked in a correctional facility for 19 years and been in hundreds of altercations. And then you realize at 44 years old or 45, whatever I was, that I didn't know how to fight. And anybody with real training was gonna throttle me. It led me down to a bunch of other paths where I needed to improve myself, and I changed my training in the weight room. I lost weight. I started running. Oh, now I'm going to take a CCW class and learn how to use firearms better. And it led me down to a path of being a better human just through grappling.
Yeah. 100%. I could not agree more. It's I think a lot especially in 2020, where there seems to be an abundance of what's the right word? People who have a very high opinion of themselves and think that they're super important. It would do a lot of these guys and girls a lot of good to get submitted, and then they would go, "Oh shit, I don't know what to do."
Yeah,
it's such an important thing for them.
It's getting people to do the hard things, right? So whether it's slinging kettlebells or putting yourself in a situation where someone's going to beat up on you a little bit, or I train with guys at my gym. Obviously, I'm not much of a runner, but when I'm training with my boy Isaac, who's a former recon Marine, or Alex, who's a 22-year-old runner, and I'm, way behind them, but I'm trying to better myself. And it takes training with those guys who are going to humble you and make you feel like garbage in order to push you to the next level. And people just don't get that in order to take a step and get to that next level, you got to surround yourself with people who are going to kick your ass, whether it's on the mat or in the gym or in business. And it takes, I don't know if I would have been good at that in my 30s, you know, but now in my 40s, being able to put that ego aside in order to become a better human being, I think that's really important for people to learn. And you're right, more people need to figure that out.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know about Ali, but you know, I feel like I've always been one of these people who kind of developed late. You know, kind of grew into things late, and I'm late to the party on everything. So yeah, now you know I'm 35 now. I'll be 36 this year. But yeah, I feel you know it really takes you know jiu-jitsu has been so important just to take another step in life, just to become more of an aware person, and more responsible, more respectful. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because yeah.
So true that you need to surround yourself with the good people that are willing to push you, because you get people that don't want to push you. They want to still see you, as kind of you were saying, Mark, when you were in your 20s, 30s and, you know, partying and drinking. And, you know, there's only so long you can do that for before you either end up spending your whole life doing that or your body starts to pack in and, you know, you get old before your time. And there's people don't want to see you getting out of that. Yeah. And it's only when you step away and look back, you go, actually, you know, the people that I thought were okay were actually kind of not holding you back as such, but weren't letting you develop as fully as you could. So I think that's a massive element of surrounding yourself with the right people can have such a positive effect, not just in terms of, as you're saying, you know, jiu-jitsu or athletics or, you know, just in life generally, it makes such a big difference.
So when I was on the circuit, my first couple of years I traveled with a guy, and we got to the point where we were both beating each other week after week, and I kind of stalled. My progress had kind of stalled. He retired from the sport, and I hooked up with Kerry Overfelt, who was 2007 national champion, Craig Smith, who I say is the best Highland Games guy that no one's ever heard of. And we started traveling together, and my throws, I was the worst guy out of those three. So when I got in with them, it was humbling, because now I went from a guy who was winning every other week to a guy who wasn't winning at all. And so I'm traveling with these guys all over the country, and they're savages. You know, we went into cities and we threw and we won money, and then we hit the beer tent and there was girls on our laps and, you know, too many beers and cocktails. But that's how we lived for years. And the three of us, and then Chris Chafin joined the group, who was also an absolute monster. But my throws leveled up. So when I joined that group, for instance, I was throwing the 28-pound weight about 74 feet. And when I retired, I was throwing at 86 feet. The reason for that was not anything I was doing differently training. It was all mindset. I didn't want to lose to those guys anymore. So I killed myself, and I learned and I listened and I just kept upping my game, because I didn't want to forget about not being the best guy in the country. I didn't want to be the worst guy in that group of four. And that was a high level group of four. And whether we were throwing or lifting weights, or, you know, we went to the bar afterwards and we're in a skee ball tournament, or, you know, air hockey. You didn't want to be the guy who lost, you know. It was a constant competition, and mentally it didn't make me a great human being. I didn't deal well with people outside of Highland Games because I was a savage. People didn't understand why I was in my garage squatting at 6 a.m. while they're going to their job at the insurance office. But when I was with those guys and I was trying to make a living throwing sticks and stones, it's what I needed to do. I needed to surround myself with this group of animals who were better than me, and then just train and train and train and compete until I was at their level. And
what's funny about that is you go from one sport where people are, you know, really gnarly and they've got massive hands and they're really tough looking guys, and then you go into this other sport where you train with these absolute nerds, and those nerds would 100% fuck up the crazy-looking guys.
I tell you what, 46-year-old Mark would have fucked up 36-year-old Mark who thought he was a hard ass, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what's funny.
I hate those nerds. I hate those guys who look like, with the dad bods who, just will throttle you because they're way smarter than I am,
Yeah, that's what's funny. That's what I think. What was the picture? I think it was actually a boxing related one, and it was do you know who Gennady Golovkin is?
Oh yeah,
the Kazakh, yeah. So it was a picture of Gennady Golovkin, and he was wearing like cream chinos and like a stripy top, and he looked like a preppy college guy. And there was a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime flexing, and it's like it's so hard to convince anybody who doesn't know anything that this guy would murder this guy. Because it doesn't make sense.
Well, so I'm from the Cleveland area, and we've got Stipe Miocic as our heavyweight champion.
Okay.
And, so that was 2 weeks ago. You had Stipe, who looks like some kind of preppy, nerdy guy, versus DC, who looks like he's lived on Cheetos and ice cream his whole life. They're the two baddest dudes on the planet, So it's so crazy
funny.
it's so funny. You'll never be able to convince people that those were the two baddest human beings on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was actually a few memes going around when Andy Ruiz had beat Anthony Joshua. He knocked out Anthony Joshua, and then DC was the heavyweight champion because he had just beat Stipe at the time. And it was like, this is peak male physical fitness, and it's these two fat guys. Like, what? Just nothing makes sense anymore.
Why am I running 5 miles if these two guys are the baddest two guys on the planet? I just don't get it.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah.
And by the way, if you see or hear from DC, I didn't say any of this, so just pretend like you didn't hear anything.
Do you know what? These guys who can actually fight will all be super cool. They'll all be super cool guys. But the guys at the powerlifting meet or the Highland Games meet who actually think they're tough, they wouldn't take it well. But the actual guys who can would be like, I don't care, man. Whatever you think, I'm not bothered. But the guys who couldn't fight would be like, what? I'll beat you up.
I had Dante Leon on the show, and Dante's from just north of me, so I text him every once in a while, and talk about a guy who's very quiet, very humble, very unassuming, and will just throttle the shit out of you if you had anything nasty to say about him. I mean, he's an absolute savage, but he's the sweetest guy you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I texted him right before the Gary Tonin fight.
Hilarious.
I'm like, here's your big shot, Dante. You got Gary Tonin. Let's get after this, And I was so psyched for him.
Those guys, those hard guys, insane, absolutely insane. Those guys. It's such a cool sport that keeps evolving. And I'm sure the Highland Games is kind of the same in terms of nothing really changes. It's essentially it was the same now as it was 100 years ago, and it'll be the same kind of in 100 years' time. Whereas it's evolving all the time. Things get added and change, and all of a sudden everybody's learning leg locks, and you go, fuck, you constantly have to keep evolving. It's amazing. The whole thing changes, and then someday, I guarantee you, somebody will be working on something now in a basement someplace of something new that nobody's thought about, and it'll come out. It's amazing. Really amazing.
Those are the guys you got to worry about, right? Those guys that are down there just nerding it up and thinking of ways to. It's I talk about when I was in Highland Games and when I first came into the sport. For instance, I watched the World Championships, and Carl Braun, I think, won the 56-pound weight for distance with a throw at 36 feet. And now that wouldn't even have made a good amateur throw, records over 50 feet. And I threw 44, which at the time was pretty good. But I got to be in the infancy of, I think a guy by the name of Ryan Vieira came in and changed the sport, and he took these numbers and he did what Kerry Overfelt and Craig Smith did for me. He just upped everybody's game. So when he came in, that 36 feet won the world championships. And I think it was the next year he threw over 40. And everyone was like, oh, you can throw over 40 feet in this thing. And then all of a sudden, everyone was throwing over 40. And then 49 feet was the record for a long time. And then two guys broke it the same weekend. And it was crazy. And it was fun to watch that progression over the years and watch the cabers get bigger and bigger and bigger as the guys got stronger and more technical. And there were so many moments in Highland Games that I got to see over a 17-year professional career where I was on the field with Ben Plucknick, who is the American record holder in the discus. And I got to see Harrison Bailey, who was just a fantastic, phenomenal, and Paul Ferenczi, God rest his soul, who was the world record holder in the weight for height, and all the way up through Ryan Vieira and Dan McKim and Kerry Overfeld, all the way up to Matt Vincent. And I got to compete with everybody. Eddie, I tell Larry Brock, and I tell everyone that when I was competing in Highland Games, we didn't throw as far as Spencer Tyler. Spencer Tyler has like 6 of the world records right now. But the group of guys we threw with was more competitive and threw further than at any time in the entire history of the Highland Games. So you had probably 15 guys in the world who right now could win the world championships. And it was all because we just hated to lose to each other. And we all we just upped each other's game. And it was great. It was, and to people talking about drugs in the sport or whatever, and there was plenty of drugs in the sport. There was plenty of testosterone. There was plenty of marijuana. There was plenty of alcohol. We had all the drugs in the sport, and we loved every minute of it. So fuck it. Who cares? It's a string sport. That's just the way it works.
It sounds like you miss it.
I tell you what, I don't. I miss it. Yeah, I miss going on a road trip with my buddies every weekend and being the center of attention and coming into a town and everybody knows you were coming, and every town had a festival, and that was a big weekend for us. It was just another weekend, but we realized that people waited all year to come out and hang out at this festival, so we became entertainers, and we pretended like we were WWE guys, and we talked shit to each other on the field, and we trained really hard during the week, and we interacted with the crowd. And at the end of the day, even though you were exhausted, they wanted you to go over to the beer tent. And oh darn, they wanted to buy you free drinks all night. And that was expected of you. You had to do that. And we realized, and we were very good at realizing that this was entertainment. And God, what a stupid sport. You're throwing rocks and sticks and kilts, and people want to pay you a lot of money to do it. So, I mean, is it that big of a deal that you go over to the beer tent and hang out with somebody and take some pictures? And I mean, it was a great time. And then guess what? After this weekend, you get to do it next weekend. And it was
is it really like that? Is it really like that in the States? Is a different, I'm assuming it'd be through the summer months.
So I competed. Usually, my first games was in April, so I would go from April until Halloween weekend. So it was every weekend or every other weekend from April to Halloween.
Okay.
And then as soon as Halloween was over, oh shit, you had to go back and be a normal human for a few months, and that was rough to do, because all the skills we learned as Highland Games athletes didn't transfer to normal human life. Why are you 312 pounds? What's your problem? What do you and then you have to explain, well, I do this stupid sport where they actually paid me to do this, and it was crazy.
Did you never get a chance to come over to God's country and do some Highland Games?
So it's kind of a confusing story. So I had the opportunity to come over to Scotland, but here's the deal. So Scotland has a time of the year where you have a games almost every weekend, or sometimes like 2 or 3 a weekend, and all the top, let's say the top 5 Americans would go over to Scotland and compete. Well, I could go over to Scotland and play 6 to these top 5 Americans, or I could stay in America and Canada and win and get a lot more money. So unfortunately, I never got over there. We're actually trying to plan a trip over there now. Unfortunately, now it'll be on my own dime, and I'll have to pay for that trip. But you know, at the time when you're throwing weights in order to make your mortgage payment, it made more financial sense for me to stay home. And much money.
That makes
I think it would.
So was Canada a big part then, just with the expat community in Canada for Highland Games?
Oh, the Canadians love Highland Games over there. And they're way more knowledgeable than the athletes. They would come out and tell you stories, and they have the brogue and it's a huge deal. And every little tiny town in like Ontario has their own Highland Games. And I was only 3.5, 4 hours away from Ontario. I basically just had to travel around Lake Erie. So I spent a lot of time in Ontario competing. And I actually got out to Calgary. Calgary was one of my favorite places on the planet to throw. And so I spent a lot of time in Canada. A lot of Scots.
Yeah, a lot of Scots in Canada. Yeah, because the reason I was going to ask if you I was going to ask if you had ever lifted the Dinnie Stones. I think that's something that a lot of guys do, the Dinnie Stones, but maybe
I would have loved to have tried it when I was actually strong. I think I could have lifted them. I had a 730-pound deadlift. I think I could have lifted them. I did get to do a trip to Iceland for 2017. I did the 2017 World Masters Highland Games Championships, and it was in Reykjavik. And it was great because you got to go over, and I got to Iceland, which has always been something I wanted to do. But to tell you the honest to God truth, the highlight of the trip was going up to Husafell, lifting the Husafell stone. And I didn't make it all the way around the goat barn or the goat corral, but I think I made it probably, 70, 80 feet. But just to be able to lift that stone and walk around with it, it was the highlight of the trip. One of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah, definitely. It's just if you look at I don't know if you've ever looked at this, Ali, but the Dinnie Stones are supposed to be, I think, 730 pounds, something like that. And Donald Denny was supposed to cross 15 feet across a bridge, but he was in reality a tiny little man, and you just do the numbers and go, he didn't lift those. I think a little bit of fuckery going on there, just in terms of numbers.
Could very well be, but I'm good with that story. I'll take it.
It's a cool story, but I think he was only like 15 stone, so which would be 195. So just over 200 pounds. So to lift 700 pounds would be like 3.5 times body weight.
It's a little sketchy. Makes for a good story.
Move it.
Yeah, it's a cool story, but I'm not entirely. It's one of those things where I think it's probably grown arms and legs through the years. But he, thing. You see. I think correct in saying I believe Brian Shaw has the record for moving the Dinnie Stones now. I think Brian Shaw has the record.
I'm sure he did it on the TV show. I'm sure he did it from TV. Like 20 feet or something. But he's
old Pure Strength where Kaz and Sigmarsson and Jeff Capes. I think Jeff had dropped out by then, but Kaz tried to shoulder one of them and walk around with it. It was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, Those guys were the best, though. That competition got me seeing the old Pure Strength. And I remember reading it in Iron Man magazine when it actually happened. So I'm like, I don't know, 13 years old, and seeing the pictures from was it Huntley Castle of these guys in kilts lifting these stones and going, oh shit, that's what I want to do. That looks cool. And now it's cool because you got the videos of it on YouTube, and I show it to my 15-year-old son, who's actually done a couple Highland Games, and that was a big motivator. But I remember those guys lifting the Denny stones and trying to carry it across the bridge. And let's face it, if Kaz and Sigmarsson can't do it, my guess is Donald Denny probably didn't really do it. But I'll still tell people that story. What the hell?
I mean, we still try and convince people that there's a monster in Loch Ness, so then he could have carried those stones easily. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's, so did you see your son's doing a little bit of Highland Games stuff?
He's doing he's a shot disc hammer thrower, and he did a couple Highland Games a couple years ago, and his main focus is track, but he's done some Highland Games, and he's, to be honest, as far as athletic ability, he's a way better thrower than I ever was. And if he sticks with it, he'll probably end up doing something. Hopefully, he'll make a splash in track and field, and then he can do Highland Games afterwards if he wants. But he's a good thrower.
The NCAA system in America helps a lot of track, doesn't it? If you're really good at track, the NCAA systems are a great. Probably the thing that we don't really have any sort of, a lot of time don't have an understanding of over here, but we don't have anything similar to the NCAA system. It's
tough, it's here you have a feeder system, and you don't always have the best coaches, but the NCAA, if you get in with a good school and a good coach, we probably have the best track and field program in the country, an hour away from me at University of Ashland, and he's been down there. So he's been down there for camps. He's worked with 4 different Olympians because of me and the people I know, I can get him in with these guys. And they're more than willing to work with them. So, I mean, how many 15-year-old kids do you know who've worked with 4 Olympians, and he's gone to all these track camps, and he just loves it. And so I give him every opportunity I can to help him improve. But the NCAA system is so much better. But, you look at guys, you guys had, in my opinion, Gregor Edmonds could possibly be the best Highland Games athlete I ever competed against. And he grew up in the sport, so he was world champion in Highland Games. He made it to the finals in World's Strongest Man. He was probably the best strength athlete I ever competed against. And and he didn't have any of those things, he just happened to be around the sport his whole life.
There's what generally happens in Scotland is, I've seen, and I know Ali has as well, seen some mentality guys in any sport. It doesn't matter whether it's soccer or rugby or athletics, any fight sport. What generally happens in Scotland is around about 16 years old, people start drinking, and everybody just goes. Genuinely, it's guys. You're like, holy shit, this guy is going to be. And they just, I don't know what happens in Scotland. They find beer, and cheap cider, and they go to the local park and they fuck all up. It happens constantly, and it's like there's no program to keep people kind of interested, and it really ruins so many good prospects that we have here. It's very rare that somebody makes Scotland, generally speaking, alcohol. Just buying beer and go, oh, this is way better. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, Gregor was not immune or adverse to having a few cocktails, but I think he probably just handled it better than most people. And he was a fantastic athlete, and it was really fun to compete against him the handful of times I got to do it. And he got a little bit of a shaft from Highland Games can be a little bit of a political political deal, and he wasn't the golden boy, so he kind of got. I think he could have won multiple world championships if they weren't. If it was a little bit less political, I think he probably could have been a 3-4 time world champion.
Yeah, I mean, almost every sport I think has those political issues. You've got to shake hands, say hello to the right people, and toe the line sometimes. And if your face doesn't fit, then you're not going to win anything. We're going to make this real difficult.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy when if you don't shake the right hands and kiss the right asses, all of a sudden you are in jeopardy of failing drug tests, where the guys who are kissing the right asses don't even get tested. So Highland Games has an issue with that. It's no one is. I mean, we're all adults here, and Highland Games is a strength sport, and to be at the top level of a strength sport, I don't care if you're a shot putter or a strongman or a powerlifter. You have to do what you have to do to get there, and to pretend like some people are doing that and some people aren't is ridiculous. And Gregor didn't kiss enough ass, and that's why he got shunned. And but I loved him. I thought he was a great guy and a best thrower I ever competed against.
It's if especially if the Highland Games is going to be a fairly small community in terms of the lifters, throwers. So if one guy's taking something, everybody's going to know. So everybody would have to, or you get left behind. As one of those things where, it's like I know people who I've had the conversation with people, watching. I love watching World's Strongest. If I was bigger, if I was physically bigger, I would have been a strongman because I love strongman stuff. But I've spoke to people and they go, do you think half the Bjornsson takes steroids? And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? Come on, man. He's fucking 205 kilos and he just pulled 501. Come on.
Right.
Don't be stupid. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Come on, man. I had the same conversation, Mark, with a friend of mine. And we're talking about the sprinters, and he's like, I'd really like to think Usain Bolt was clean. I was like, okay. I mean, if you think Usain Bolt was clean, I have some magic beans to sell you. Okay. Yeah. And then he actually looked and it's like, of the top 10 fastest men of all times, the other 9 had all failed drugs tests. I was like, you do the math. Come on, fucking hell.
Yeah.
These guys are all doing something.
Yeah, and it's just the race. Who's got a better chemist? Who's got the new? It's crazy, and we're going through the same thing in jiu-jitsu right now. Is we've got a lot of guys who are super jacked, and coming from the sport I came from, I look at them and go, oh well, obviously, but to complain about that is a little bit crazy on my from my thinking. It's just like every other sport in the world. I don't know why jiu-jitsu would be any different. They're going to do. You put money on the line. You're going to have people doing whatever they need to do to win.
100%. Once money becomes involved, people are willing to go to the lengths to make sure they win the money. It's
100%.
100%. It's if there's money involved, there will be corruption involved in it. I've spoke to people as well who hate on Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong's a fucking cheat, and listen, man, he still won, and everybody else was doing it. He still won, and everybody else was taking steroids. So, and it's not even like it's a secret. No, we know everybody else was taking steroids.
Yeah,
we're all doing it. He was just better on steroids, so he still won. So it's crazy. Yeah, I mean,
one of the years that Armstrong won, and they realised that, or they got him for the drugs, they went back through the general classification, and they dropped down to something like the 74th cyclist.
Yep.
Before they had someone that was actually clean, and at that point they're like, he finished like 17 hours behind. We can't give it to him. So, and that's why all Armstrong's titles have just been voided. They haven't been awarded to other people because everyone was losing. Everyone was on EPO.
I mean, if you look at the UFC, when there's a few fighters. So when Jeff Nowitzki came in, the most obvious one was Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks went from being a world beater, world class, to all of a sudden they were getting tested, and he was shit. Yeah. he was awful. You go, okay, I understand. But, Brock Lesnar's another one. He came back for UFC 200. It's like, Brock Lesnar failed a drugs test. No shit, he did.
No shit.
Brock Lesnar is steroids. What are you talking about?
Tate Fletcher. Tate Fletcher was a UFC fighter, and now he runs Caveman Coffee. He had one of the best quotes where he said, if you keep up with this drug testing, that the guys in the stands are going to look better than the guys in the cage. Yeah. And I mean, isn't that what we want to see? Isn't that what we want to see? Alistair Overeem at his absolute best fighting Brock Lesnar at his absolute best, because holy shit, let's see these two mutants kick the crap out of each other. I don't want to see fat Alistair Overeem versus a weak Brock Lesnar. Nobody wants to see that crap. And to say that you do, you're just lying to yourself. I want to see John Jones coked up out of his mind, running over pregnant ladies in the street, taking steroids and kicking people in the head. That's what you want to see.
I want to see somebody do an 8.9 at the 100 meters in Tokyo. Absolutely, just testosterone dripping out his nose and doing an 8.9.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a kid from the 80s. I grew up on Arnold and Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren. That's who I grew up on. I don't want to see whoever they try to pass off as action heroes today. I don't want to see Ryan Gosling in an action. Fuck that. All action movies should have The Rock in it. That's it. That's just the way it should be.
It's when you look back to the 80s and you remember Hulk Hogan saying "take your vitamins," and now you realise he meant
hell yeah. That's what I want.
What's hilarious is there's a few accounts on Instagram that do like me and Ali grew up watching like 1990s WWF, and you look back now and you watch Macho Man Randy Savage doing an interview, and it's like, how did nobody know that they were on cocaine constantly? How did our parents not go, I think he's taking cocaine? I don't think we should let the kids watch us. Do you know what I mean? They're so obviously high on drugs constantly.
Oh yeah.
It's just amazing.
I remember my dad saying about Jake the Snake Roberts. He's like, he's out his tree because he never blinks. And I was like, no, it's part of his character, Dad. He doesn't blink on camera. My dad's like, I don't think he's blinking off camera either.
Right? Yeah, your dad had it down pat for sure.
It's quite funny. I'm the same as you. When people talk about rock stars nowadays, you're talking like whoever I don't even know. Like the Jonas Brothers. I want my rock stars to be doing cocaine in the back of a limousine with some strippers. And
hell yeah!
Kick a cameraman.
You want Vince Neil and Motley Crue, and you want them. You want Motley Crue coming out with two strippers on each arm and doing cocaine off their butts, and that's what a rock star is. You don't need these fags that are out there pretending like they're. Give me a break. They're not rock stars anymore. There's nobody out there anymore.
No,
I want Hank Williams Jr. with an arm around a girl on each side, a big bottle of bourbon in front of him. That's what I want.
Have you ever seen the picture? And it's like a meme now, and it's like, you may be cool, but you'll never be Johnny Cash eating a cake in a bush, high as fuck cool. And it's just Johnny Cash sitting in a bush, and he's got cake all under his mouth. Like, that's what I want. I want this guy.
Absolutely.
I want this guy.
I want. Yep.
I don't want. I don't want anybody talking about sustainability.
You guys have the best ever. If Bon Scott could hear what's going on in rock and roll today, he'd be flipping in his grave. I mean, Bon Scott was the rock star.
Yeah. He went hard.
Roll. Yeah. It's Yeah, he's not. Yeah, Bon Scott's from, Kitty-Mere's 40 miles north of us. We're not far from here where Bon Scott was born. Yeah, those are the guys, man. Those when I hear the even I watch Formula One racing now, and you've got Formula One drivers, and they're talking about we need to be nicer to the planet, and all the you just go, fuck off. Give me James Hunt, who was like he was going round afterwards, he was having a vodka, smoking a cigarette, and having sex with most of the good girls.
What's the point of being a rock star or a NASCAR or an Indy 1 driver and not getting to do that stuff? Why would you want to be a rock star nowadays?
Yeah.
You don't get to do anything.
Yeah.
Wheatgrass smoothies, mindfulness, and yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not quite the same ring as cigarettes and alcohol.
One of the coolest stories I ever heard was years ago. Did you ever watch Top Gear, the car show? Top Gear. Did you watch it? So a while ago, no, a long time ago now, maybe 10 years ago, it was oh fuck now, what's his name? Scout for someone, Alice Cooper, and Jeremy Clarkson said, we've heard all the stories about rock stars doing this, and he said, who was the craziest of them all? It was I forgot the name now. The drummer from the Who. Keith Moon. Yeah, and that's what he said. He goes, "Who was the crazy?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Keith Moon by far was a fucking lunatic, like, just a crazy person." And they did ask Roger Daltrey as well. So, you did at any point did Keith Moon drive a Rolls Royce into a swimming pool? He said, "I didn't see it, but I did see a bill for removing a Lincoln Continental from a swimming pool." So he didn't see it, but that happened. So these old guys, Alice Cooper and stuff. They, he said he's selling. I can't remember most of the shit in the 80s. I don't know what fucking happened. Just don't know what happened in the 80s, and all these guys.
Stevie Tyler of Aerosmith says his biggest regret of the 80s was he did too much heroin, didn't fuck enough groupies.
Well, yeah.
That's genuinely his biggest regret. His biggest regret of the 80s, too much heroin and not enough fucking groupies.
Yeah, the heroin. That's not the best way to go about doing things. But Steven Tyler now looks like a battered housewife. He looks horrible.
But it must be like 137 years old.
He's very old. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's you couldn't do that anymore. You couldn't. That would not be accepted. You would be an outcast, a social outcast, and you'd be made to apologise. And
a
lot of people would be
apologize, which is that's a social media thing, though. The social media. If I go back and forth on that. I need it for my business, but I'd like to get rid of it altogether because it's a plague that you're ruining. You're ruining men. You're ruining these stars that you heard rumors about it. If Keith Moon drove a Rolls Royce into a swimming pool, you'd have for Instagram seconds. It wouldn't be a legendary story. And I have a real problem with it. It's a necessary evil, but I'm working really hard to get less and less involved with it because it's just the biggest commodity we have right now as human beings on planet Earth is truth, and you just are not seeing truth on social media or in the media in general. Or from these governments, or truth is a valuable commodity that very few people are in possession of, and social media is hampering these. You can't have a Bon Scott anymore because he'll be shamed and canceled by these soft people who don't want to do with them.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what would happen? If Ozzy Osbourne had bitten the head of a bat in 2020.
You have PETA all over him, and he wouldn't have been allowed to be a rock star.
He'd been banned. There'd been an investigation. He would have got charged for hurting Bat's feelings and.
Right. And what would we do without Ozzy Osbourne? What would we do? We need Ozzy Osbournes in the world.
You definitely.
I don't think any of that stuff would be allowed. It's crazy how far the world shifted to. So there's certain things that are obviously unacceptable, but the idea these people are supposed to be clean cut, and it's whenever you see something coming out and it's like some high flying Wall Street banker or some politician, he did cocaine. You're like, yeah, but I mean, isn't like everybody else on the Saturday night? Like, so what? Like, why is that different? Like, man, guys,
I have this fantasy where I would run for some kind of political office, and I think the first thing I would do is come out and say everything I've done, from top to bottom, and then just go with it. And I think people would respond to that. If you ever actually had a politician come out and say, I did this, I was a womanizer, and I snorted cocaine, and I think people would just go, big sigh of relief and go, finally a human being who wants to do this.
Genuinely believe if somebody came out now and actually was honest, I believe, and maybe this is why Trump is so popular, with his base, is because he actually says what he means and he actually does it, and he's still, he's not, he still does fucking outrageous things, and I don't think everything he says is true, but more than everybody else, he's more of a human being, and he actually, he says things as a human being rather than these really weird lifelong politicians that kind of do these really weird monologues, and you go, fuck, man, you're full of shit. You're full of shit.
Well, so when you think about Trump, Trump has no filter, and I'll give you the standard line that everyone gives you. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump as a human being. That's the standard line, right? That's what everybody says. But Trump has no filter, and you never have to worry about what he's actually thinking. And the thing about it is like, I'll say things all the time. In this interview, I called someone a fag earlier. That's my own 12-year-old mentality, where that's the language I used when I was 12. And it's not politically correct now. I don't give a shit. If you want to cancel me, I have no animosity towards any human being on the planet, as long as you're nice to me. And that's what we're living in now, is words are considered violence. If you say the wrong thing, even though you have good intentions in your heart, you get canceled, and people will not let you do things. Trump doesn't give a shit. Trump just says whatever the fuck comes into his brain, and I kind of respect the fact that at least I know what I'm getting with Trump. I never have to wonder. This is who he is, and I don't have to wonder what's going on. The stuff that's going on in our country right now is it's fueled by social media. It's fueled by media in general. You don't see the things that are on the news in the vast majorities of corners of this country. You see them in these outcrops and weird. I mean, I've been to Portland, I think 6 times as a Highland Games athlete. Portland was a great city, but it was always filled with a bunch of weirdos and a bunch of drug users on the sidewalk and all these runaway kids. And it's filled with these people in society who can't make it. They can't find a way to succeed. And it was always like that. Now you're just weaponizing them by showing them on the media every day. And in the towns I hang out and live in, you don't see that. But the only thing the media is showing the world is Portland on fire. And
Portland Portland used to have the slogan, wasn't it? Keep Portland weird. Did I remember that right?
So that's a lot of. So you have keep Austin weird. You have keep Portland weird. You have all these. You have a bunch of cities who have that as a slogan.
Yeah.
And what's funny is these were cities I used to love going to. So Portland was a city I loved going to. Austin, Texas was a city I loved going to. Key West, Florida, New Orleans. But Austin and Portland have both had some real issues with what's going on lately because it's great to keep Portland weird, but you have to have some law and order involved too to keep the weirdos from taking over. You can't just say, okay, weirdos, take over the whole city. And even though we embrace you being weird, maybe we shouldn't embrace you burning down a building or, I mean, it's there's a thin line you have to cross. And like I said, those cities were Portland, New Orleans, Key West, Austin, Calgary, Nashville. These were all cities I love to go to, but I don't know if towns like Portland and Austin will be friendly to people. I have no political bias one way or another, but I don't think if I walk down the streets in Portland, I'm going to be welcomed anymore, no matter what my political beliefs are. And there's certainly not Republican or Democrat. I could care less. I want to make money and I want to feel safe with my family, and that's the only thing I care about. So if you're a Democrat, you can do that for me, great. If you're a Republican, that's great. You can do it. If you do that for me, that's great. But
I mean, in terms of obviously we don't, obviously we can't vote in America, but even in in the UK, I don't feel like there's really a political party for me. There seems to be like this widening gap. America's the same. I wouldn't, if I was in America, I'd be more likely to vote Republican right now than Democrat. But I wouldn't say that I would go that way or that way. It's just like it feels like there's a widening gap, and there's like a lot of people that are having to choose this way or this way, when there's really like there should be like another option someplace, because a lot of people are like, I don't really agree with this or this. And there's nothing. It's the same. It's the same over here. There's a widening gap this side, and it's only grown wider, and it will get more violent. And I think you're right. The social media is when it gets to the stage where people are just looking to score these really petty, bitchy points in each other. Oh, but your guy did this, and your guy did this. Oh, but your guy did this, and he said this.
Yep.
You go, fuck off. It's so petty, and you're like, I don't know about you. I don't have time to worry about all those fucking petty things. It's all fucking nonsense. It's all just bullshit, really.
I as far as social issues, I lean way left. So I'm pro gay marriage, I'm pro gay choice, I'm pro civil rights. I'm all this stuff. But you know what? I want to be able to have my guns, and I want people to actually work for their paycheck, and I want a strong military and a strong police force, because without law and order, I can't do all the stuff I want to do. I can't take my family places. I can't. All the stuff I want for my life, I can't do that unless I have a strong law enforcement presence that keeps the weirdos and the ne'er-do-wells from taking shit from me. I only have so many bullets, and I can't defend myself constantly. I need someone to do that, and I'm willing to pay someone to do that. And without a strong law enforcement presence, I don't get to do all the things I want to do. And that's,
exactly what you just said there. I would agree with that. I think probably and then kind of morally conservative in terms. We're both the same. No, I don't care. I don't care what people do. Just as long as you're not harming other people.
100%.
And it becomes an issue. I don't care what I don't care if somebody wants to be. Oh, you want to be you want to be a woman now? Okay, cool. If that's what you want to do, I don't. Doesn't make a difference. It's when you start to harm people that's when it becomes an issue. And like financially conservative, because I think everybody should have to earn their crust. I think there's far too many people don't work for a living. That should be not a thing.
Yeah.
But socially, man, I really don't. As long as you do what you want, but strong military, strong police presence, law and order. I don't. That's not. That's not a ridiculous ask from
it really
society.
is. It's really the bare minimum of what government should provide for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's crazy that you have to have a conversation that's what you want. For instance, as you say, it should be, people work, you pay your taxes, you get the military, you get the law enforcement, everyone should be good. And yet people try and argue against those points and don't want, defunding the police has become, I suppose, popular is the word I would use. The military gets slammed over here.
The most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. Defund the fucking police. What the fuck?
I was a corrections officer for 19 years. So, I'm a big support the police person. But the people who are calling to defund the police are fundamentally incapable of defending themselves. If you look at these people, they're weaklings. They are not. They're not training. They're in a lot of trouble. If the police go away, guess who gets to be the warlord? Me. I get to decide if I take your stuff, if I take your guns, if I take your food. It becomes me because I'm bigger and stronger than you. The only thing keeping me from taking your shit is those police officers you wanted to fund, and those guys are important to your survival, not necessarily my survival. Me and you, the three of us, we take jiu-jitsu. We understand how to brawl. We understand how to do this stuff. We're in shape. We understand this stuff. These people who are calling for the defunding the police, they're not ready. They're not ready for violence, and that's a big problem, especially in the United States where everybody has a weapon.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Just what you touched on there, and I would go further. So you were saying, the only thing stopping you from taking other people, forget about the police, because the police aren't always there. So, I was a reasonable boxer. I've ran marathons and triathlons, and I'm fairly strong. The only thing stopping me from beating the shit out of something and taking the stuff off them is me being a decent human being.
100%. 100%.
Stop me doing it. Because if this guy, whoever lives next door, I could just go take your stuff and there's nothing you can do about it because we don't have guns here. So I could just take your stuff. The police aren't here, so
right.
Not happening is me being nice. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's
nothing really quick.
There's nothing if you're not physically strong, have some cardio, and are able to defend yourself, and you have weapons. Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do.
Your 3,000 followers on Instagram is not going to help you defend yourself.
Nothing.
It becomes Mad Max real quick, and that's super scary. It's super scary for guys like us, let alone these people who have no chance of helping themselves.
Cool. It's like, oh, cool. You picked up a black bag full of plastic bullets. give me your money. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. These are all really nice things, but without law and order, it's all irrelevant. And it's
the thing is, a lot of it though loops back to what we talked about, 40 minutes ago. People think they can fight when they cannot, and they think in their head they're okay because they've never been punched in the face. They've never had someone come up and steal something. They've never had someone put that pressure on them. So they go, we don't need the police, we don't need the protection. And then someone pops them in the face and they go, actually.
Having boxed that heavyweight, 200 pounds, if a 200-pound man who knows how to punches you in the face, you have a problem. You have a real problem.
Especially if you, for the last, 25 years of your life, you've been eating Cheetos and watching video games on TV and playing on your social media and not training. You're in a lot of problems. And, I see a lot of these people protesting, and I'm like, okay, but you're not ready. We can do this any way you want to do it, but you're not ready.
This actually brings me back. Now, there's something that it was being brought to attention in the last couple of days here in Scotland. Did you see it? I think you did see it, Ali. Maybe you sent me, actually. There's a TripAdvisor review about Ben Nevis, which is the highest mountain in Britain. Somebody left a 1-star review for a mountain. So it's the highest mountain in Britain. So it's 4,400 and something feet. And somebody left a bad review on it because, like, my girlfriend was crying. It's really, really high and steep. And it's really hard to climb. There's no facilities at the top. There's no facilities at the top.
There's no restaurant.
And we got to the top and it was cloudy. We couldn't even see anything. And it's like, you are everything that's wrong in the world. Like, what the fuck? What did you think this was going to be? And it sums up modern humans, these soft as shit. The guys who watch Conor McGregor and going, "Oh man, I wouldn't have tapped to that." Fuck off, man. No idea.
Right. Khabib's got you in a chin lock and you're not going to tap. Right. I know those guys.
If the best wrestler in the UFC has you in a rear naked choke, it doesn't even matter where it is, and he is putting pressure on because you've talked so much shit to him that he really wants to murder you, and he's putting everything into it. I can assure you, any single person on planet Earth would go, fuck this. And they're like, oh man, fucking top, man. The fuck? So those are the guys who are leaving bad reviews for mountains because they're too hard. What the fuck?
What did you expect from a mountain? That's kind of the whole point. Is it's hard to get to the top of.
It's like it's like going to deadlift and there's 500 pounds and it goes, man, that's really dickhead. Of course it's hard. It's 500 pounds. Like, what do you think? It's so funny. It's I think I don't even know how you fix any of this stuff. I don't know how you fix this stuff apart from good men teaching their kids how to be good men and good girls. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know where it goes. I think at some point there will be a swing, and people will start to realise how unbelievably ridiculous they're being. But when that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right on both points. I think first there will be a pendulum swing back, just like there always is, right? So, but I think that the key is raising your children the way you would want to see humanity exist. So I talk about this all the time on our podcast, that people talk about how hard it is to raise children in this day and age, and it's not. It's the easiest time in the world to raise a successful child, because if you give him just a little bit of work ethic, a little bit of discipline, he will rule the world. My son is 15 years old, and he looks completely different than all the other kids around him. If you line him up with 20 of his other friends, he looks completely different because he's literally been learning discipline and exercising since day one. And my wife and I came to this thought that we were going to raise him like we were raised in the 80s. So he's been a free-range kid. He leaves and he goes and hangs out with his friends, and we say, hey, be home when the street lights are on. And he would show up, and now that he's in high school, he goes out with his friends, and as long as he's not doing anything wrong, there's no restrictions on that. So if he doesn't fuck up, then I don't bust his balls, and I don't hover over top of him. And by giving him a little bit of anonymity and a whole lot of discipline, he's going to be fine. But these parents that are constantly either hovering over their children or doing everything for them are just creating more soft people protesting in Portland. And that's what we're dealing with.
I remember, when I was a kid, in the 80s, my gran and granddad had a great big house and it had coal fires and everything. And when I was, 5 years old, 6, I was sent to get logs and buckets of coal. So I was like this little guy, I was just carrying coals, logs, and that was my job. And it's like, and that's carried through now to the work ethics there. And one of my favourite quotes is, I think it was The Rock who said it. I think it was, just focus on being the hardest working guy in the room.
Yeah, that's all it really comes down to, right?
And you can't really go there. I mean, we all have our bad days. You go to jiu-jitsu and go, I'm tired, I'm sore. But generally, if you go in there and say, I'm going to try and outwork everybody in the room today, I mean, just start there. You go, yeah.
So that takes us back to Highland Games.
If kids aren't brought up that way.
When I was in Highland Games, I was 5'11" on a good day. I had a very minimal throwing background. I wasn't like the most athletic guy on the planet, and I'm competing with Dan McKim, who's 6'5", and he looks like Zeus threw him down from Mount Olympus, and these guys that are just amazing. And the only thing I had was I could outwork them. We all had 24 hours. What are you going to do within 24 hours? So I became obsessed with outworking everybody, and I think as normal human beings walking a planet, if you can just get yourself to outwork the guy next to you, you'll be successful. There's nothing on paper that should have said that I should have made 5 national championships or that I should have been the best, the highest ranked caber tosser in 2012, my last real year. There's nothing about me that says I should have been able to do that, other than the fact that I was willing to outwork everybody else because it was the only thing I had. I had zero talent. I had zero genetic gifts. My father is 5'9", 260 pounds. My mother's not, she's 5-something, 100 and nothing. I had no genetic gifts at all. All I had was a work ethic, and I just knew that if I worked my ass off, I could do whatever those guys did. And if more people did that, I think they would be in better shape.
You sound very similar to me. I'm like, I never quite made 6 foot, so I'm like 5'11" and 3/4. I am absolutely and utterly not built for triathlons or marathons, but I've done them. As a heavyweight, as a 200-pound boxer, I was the wrong size, I was the wrong shape, because I was small, quite short and broad, really broad. Same for jiu-jitsu, I'm kind of all wrong shape for doing it, because I'm, again, small and boxy, but I fucking work hard.
Yeah.
I work really, really, really hard at these things, and I've had, some success, so, but I have, like you're saying, I didn't come from an athletic background. My parents aren't athletic. My parents are both really small. My dad's 5'8", and I think my mum's like 5'2". I'm like, and it's just going, you do something, and you go, even now, jiu-jitsu is kind of my main focus. You just go, how far can I push this?
Yeah.
What can I do? Fuck it, man. Like, we've got 24 hours in a day. I'm 35, so I have probably, 20 years left of being reasonably functioning as a decent kind of athletic person. So, okay, how far can you push it? What can I do? I have no talent. I'm not talented at anything. People, because I've done so many things, like I say, all these different various fields, and people say, what's your favourite event in triathlon? Well, none of them. I'm not a good swimmer. I'm not a good cyclist. I'm not a good runner. But I've done lots of triathlons because I'll do the work and I'll fucking get through it. I'm not good. I'm not good at anything. But I've done lots. It's just hard work, putting your head down, and that comes from, like I say, when I was a little kid, go get a bucket full of coal, and I'd be going getting coal, and I was constantly doing things, and it, never did me any harm.
I can totally relate, man. I think that's I think it's the most important thing we have as humans is the ability to work and the willingness to work. And I just think if more people would embrace that and embrace the fact that shit's going to hurt when you climb to the top of a mountain, it's going to hurt, and you might not get to see everything. You might have to piss in a bush, but it's the act of climbing to the top of that mountain that makes it 5 stars, no matter what hardship you have. If it's harder, then give them more fucking stars, not less.
I think
that's where we're at.
One of the favorite quotes I've ever read is the famous Henry Rollins, 200 pounds is always be 200 pounds. That quote's it's so good. It's so because there's no bullshit. You can't you can't bullshit lifting weight. Or you could apply that to jiu-jitsu. You can't blag it. If somebody's trying to if somebody's trying to, choke you, you can't blag that. You can't, you can't fake it. If you get your ass kicked, it's because you got your ass kicked. And I love that.
It's the ultimate truth teller. Those mats are the ultimate truth teller. Who are you? Are you going to tap the pressure? Are you gonna tap because something's super uncomfortable? I know you can't fucking breathe, but you better move and you got to do something because otherwise you're a bitch. If you tap because something's uncomfortable, you're not my kind of human. I can't hang out with you. We can't be pals.
Yeah. I could not agree more. Just couldn't agree more. It's you have to be, in every position in life, whether it's with work or whatever physical activity you're doing, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you have to be.
And now at 46 years old, I love it. I love that feeling. I'm here I'm visiting my parents, my in-laws down here in Tennessee, and I went out this morning and ran some hills, and I'm not used to these kind of mountainous places in Cleveland, so I'm running up the hills, and the higher that hill got, the more I dug it, man, because it hurt, and I knew that every step I took, and the more it hurt, the better I was getting, and I just loved it, and I'll sleep soundly tonight knowing that I put in as much work as I could today,
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I think we've done like an hour and a half, haven't we? Just kind of ended up.
Yeah.
So it happens when you're having fun. That was like an hour and a half, and that was before we started, I got this. This is a Noco, like a caffeine drink. I was really, really tired. And then I had that, and then I just took off, and I feel like I could talk for another 3 hours now. But it's getting late here. But yeah, it was really, really fun conversation. I think we'll speak again at some point in the future. Maybe we'll speak to you when you get your blue belt.
I was super psyched to get the invite, and I've got a big mouth, so I don't mind talking. So I thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
And if you do make the trip to Scotland, make sure you give us a shout, and we'll get a rolling.
Hell yeah! Take me some of them pubs up there. Let's make some bad decisions.
100%.
Just before we fully wind up there, Mark, just so that people that are listening to this from our side can find out more about yourself, and you mentioned a few times your podcast, where can people find it, find yourself? Where's the best places to look to find out a bit more about your unique savagery?
Yeah, so I'm only on Instagram. It's at RefinedSavageActual. You can find me there. The podcast is pretty much everywhere you get podcasts. iTunes, Spotify. I don't have that Joe Rogan money, but Spotify and iHeartRadio. You can check out the podcast there. We are. It's always been an in-person podcast, but now we have decided that we're going to do something similar to this because I've got friends all over the world, and I'd like to start talking to them. So we're going to be doing some Skype interviews here. We've got some really good guests lined up. I'm super psyched. And then at Blind Dog Strong is our other Instagram post. So at RefinedSavageActual, at Blind Dog Strong, and I post all my personal stuff at RefinedSavageActual. And if you want to hear my nonsense on a daily basis, that's probably the best place to go.
Awesome.
We'll tag that in our show notes as well when we post this episode live.
Awesome. I thank you guys, man. This has been great. I'd love to do it again anytime you want. Just let me know.
Well, maybe when we'll keep an eye on your Instagram, and we'll wait and see when you get your blue belt, and maybe we'll speak to you again sometime around then. And
I better have it soon. I tell you what.
Awesome, man. Well, you have a great day over there in the US, and thanks for your time, man. It was great fun.
It was a great time, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Episode 38, Silly Goose Gang Podcast. We are out.
The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.